So yesterday I made a video about how it's not just Alberta that's planning on leaving, but also Scott Moe from Saskatchewan said, if the people want to leave, then so be it. And well, nobody's taking charge of BC. So heck, my team and I are on it. Right now, as we speak, I've got a website that's being crafted, a landing page. We're going to do signatures. We're going to launch petitions. We're going to actually start to reach out to mayors and band people together, because I think there's 93 ridings in BC. And a quick little research this morning showed that you only need 10% of referendum signatures to trigger the actual vote. So 360 some thousand signatures in total out of the 3.6 million people that are eligible to vote in BC. Oh yeah, but it's happening. Western separation. Here we come. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I really want to encourage you guys to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. Huge movement happening. Huge changes coming in every single day. And this is real. This is real. A lot of people are angry. Go through the comments. It was like over 5,000 or 6,000 comments on the last video about this. Go through the comments and read people's stories. People are angry. People don't want Ottawa and Quebec to be ruling all of Canada. And that is kind of what's been happening. And so what's the alternative? Band together, do petitions, and separate, because it's actually not treason to do it. It's in our constitutional rights, and it's in our constitution to separate. That's why we have votes on it. So yeah, anyone who's saying you're a traitor, you're treason, blah blah blah, nope, it's written in our documents, so we're a-okay. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be rolling out petitions. We're going to be rolling out with a whole whack of stuff about BC joining in on this, so all three can separate. Whoo boy, wow. But before we get into this video, because it's huge, Mark Carney's like meeting with the king next week or something like that. So before we get into this video, I do have a message from today's sponsor. I'm not going to lie, I'm still pretty sad about the election loss. And the crazy part is, depending what side you're actually on, either you view this as a good thing or you view this as a bad thing. But the reality is, to quote a liberal, that the work is just beginning. And that's exactly why I go to Ground News. Ground News is the literal best way to cut through all of the crap and get right to the truth. Even when it feels like everything is stacked against you, these stories remind you that you're not alone. Take the story on Mark Carney and liberals pulling it off. Almost 400,000 sources are covering it from all across the political spectrum. Sherwood News, a left-leaning media outlet, saying that Canada's backlash against Trump tariff is reshaping our northern borders shopping habits. Meanwhile, on the right, The Hub is saying that Need to Know, Carney tried to distance himself from Justin Trudeau during the French language debate. It's a hard case to make. One of my favorite features of Ground News is the blind spot feature that shows you stories that you would have missed from the left and from the right. Canada is more polarized than ever before, and with Mark Carney as Prime Minister, it's probably going to get significantly worse. So if you want to make sure that you're getting the full story, make sure you click the link down below in the description, or use the pinned comment below, or scan the QR code on the screen, or visit ground.news/sun to get yourself 40% off the Vantage plan today. It may feel like it's going to be a long few years, but we're all in this together, and let's just reshape the whole chicken dance thing, and let's just end it with keep your stick on the ice. So breaking news development, I've just finished recording the video. I know you can't tell I'm wearing the same hat, same shirt and everything, but I do need to throw this in right now at the beginning. So we're all kind of wondering what's going to happen with Pierre Poilievre, what's going to happen with his by-election, what's going to happen with, you know, the party leader status. Well, here's what inside sources are saying about Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre. Prime Minister Carney said that he will call a by-election ASAP if a Conservative MP steps down so that Pierre Poilievre can run for a seat. No games, he said. So in order for a by-election to actually occur, it's not just up to the riding. The Prime Minister has to actually give the thumbs up that that's good to go. So kind of neat. I don't know if there's like an angle about it, but I'm just going to take it at face value with a bunch of naivete and maybe a little slap of ignorance. I think this is really good. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm not going to use my lips. I thank Mark Carney for allowing Pierre to run his by-election if a Conservative MP does step down, so that we can have Pierre as party leader of the Conservative Party. That's pretty cool. So anyways, that's a breaking news piece. Now let's get back to the scheduled video. All right, so I now have another breaking news, because I just recorded the piece I was breaking, and now we're in additional breaking news. An MP just resigned. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you have Alberta MP Damien Kursk resigns to allow Pierre Poilievre to run, and it's right here in the Conservative letter. Battle River, Crawford, Alberta. Damien Kursk, Conservative MP-elect for Battle River, released the following statement: "It's been a tremendous honor to serve the good people of Battle River Crawford as their member of parliament since 2019. Their support and commitment of the Conservative movement and our mission to bring back hope and prosperity to this country has been unmatched. That is why, after much discussion with my wife, Danielle, and I have decided to step aside for the parliamentary session to allow Conservative Party leader to run here in a by-election. Pierre Poilievre just finished a remarkable national campaign that received the highest vote share since 1988. I'm sorry if I'm speaking loud. Again, I just recorded the entire video, so now let's get back to the scheduled recording. Please, no more breaking news while I export this video and upload it. Whoa, Pierre's back in, baby. He's moving to Alberta. Let's go, Pierre. All right, like I said, big changes coming. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you support the sponsors of the channel. And without further ado, let's take a look here at Mark Carney, who is preparing to meet with King Charles. Kind of crazy. He's been prime minister legitimately for like a few days, and already he's going to be meeting with the king.
As I've been clear since day one of my leadership campaign in January, I'm in politics to do big things, not to be something. And now that Canadians have honored me with a mandate to bring about big changes quickly, I will work relentlessly to fulfill that trust. As I stressed on election night, I am committed to working with others, governing as a team in cabinet and caucus, and working constructively across parties in Parliament, working in real partnership with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples, and bringing together labor, business, and civil society to advance the nation-building investments that will transform our economy. In the coming weeks, I will unveil more of our plans to engage with Canadians as we embark on the biggest transformation of our economy since the end of the Second World War. This will be an incredibly exciting time as we take control of our economic destiny to create a new Canadian economy that works for everyone. We will begin to set out that new path for Canada with a new cabinet to be sworn in on the week of the 12th of May and the recall of Parliament on May 26th. We will have the privilege of welcoming His Majesty King Charles III, who will deliver Canada's speech from the throne on May 27th. Her Majesty the Queen will join this visit. This is an historic honor which matches the weight of our times. To the immediate priorities of my government, beginning with our relationship with the United States. As I've stressed repeatedly, our old relationship, based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The questions now are how our nations will cooperate in the future and where we in Canada will move on. On Tuesday, I had a very constructive call with President Trump, and we agreed to meet next Tuesday in Washington. Our focus will be on both immediate trade pressures and the broader future economic and security relationship between our two sovereign nations. My government will fight to get the best deal for Canada. We will take all the time necessary, but not more, in order to do so. In parallel, we will strengthen our relationships with reliable trading partners and allies. Canada has what the world needs, and we uphold the values the world respects.
Okay, so already I can tell that all these liberals are absolutely going to have buyer's remorse. People think they elected somebody to stand up to Donald Trump, yet now you're hearing that him and Trump are BFFs. That's just how it is. So good job, liberals. You elected a Trump lover and Trump supporter where you could have gone a different direction. But anyways, it doesn't matter because now we're talking about separation, which is a perfect segue into this next piece. Danielle Smith's reform is nudging Alberta's separation vote from if towards when. So it's already happening, folks. This is very, very exciting.
When the federal government violates the Constitution, goes out of their way to interfere with our exclusive jurisdiction, we are going to meet them with every step that we can in order to preserve our ability to manage our own affairs. And in today's announcement, particularly for electricity, we are simply not going to allow the federal government, based on ideology, to violate the Constitution and put our people at risk.
And now, during the election, we had seen some polling actually done around the separatism idea on the prairies, and an Angus Reid poll actually showed that 3 in 10 residents in Alberta and Saskatchewan, about 30% or so, said that they would be open to becoming its own independent country. So it is yet to be seen whether this new legislation will be put to use, but again, that sentiment in the West does seem to be growing.
And we're already hearing some pushback against this.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares, man? Sug on these. Look, the movement is huge. And it's not just Alberta. It's not just Saskatchewan. There's a huge amount in BC. I mean, you had so many ridings flip in BC to be conservative. Even on the island, 3 out of 6 ridings are conservative. Now, not every conservative is for separatism or, signing a referendum. I get that. But let's just keep in mind that we're under a liberal regime for the foreseeable future, and they have quite a bit of control. And there's a lot of movement with Alberta and Saskatchewan to band together. And if BC does it, that's a huge chunk. And how unfortunate would it be for Prime Minister Carney in his first month already to have 3 provinces banding together and talking about separating because of this liberal regime. We knew it would happen. We knew Alberta for surezies would be trying to take off. We didn't know it was going to be Saskatchewan. And it turns out there's a lot of demand in BC. And like I said, it's not that difficult in BC. You need 10% of signatures to trigger the election. So yeah, that's 360 some thousand since there were 3.6 eligible voters. Not that difficult. But let's shift away from the separatist talk a little bit, which, by the way, I'm such a hypocrite. I'm sorry, but I am such a hypocrite because I've talked about Quebec and I've made fun of them for being a separatist province and blah, blah, blah. And then here I am getting ready to start petitions. But it's different. We all speak English, not French. Whatever. Let's take a look here at Mario on X, who had this to say, this very well-informed video about Pierre's ridings and why he actually lost his seat.
Pierre losing his riding just never sat well with me. He's held it for 20 years. So I decided to do some digging. Watch this. As many of you know, Pierre Poilievre has held his riding of Carleton for nearly 20 years. He was just recently beaten, and this is what his riding looks like. This is Carleton, and as you can see, it wraps around this area around there. I'll move my head out of the way. I want you to see the full area of Carleton. And this is from the Elections Canada website. His area, the region that I just showed you, it didn't look like that. In fact, in all of the other elections, it looked like this. It never had this area. Remember that. This area right here, that's brand new. I'm going to shrink myself down to size so you can see that new area that was integrated with his. This is what it looked like in 2021 88. When they had the 4.
So pretty much they absorbed 88 was Carleton and 41 was Canada. And now Carleton, which is Pierre's riding, is 88 and 41, which you can see bigger landmass in 41, probably maybe even more voters, depending on if there's more residential areas there. And so that's kind of why Pierre lost his seat. Not to mention the fact that they imported, I think it was 40,000 immigrants into Carleton. Right. Mario does a great job. I don't want to eat up his entire video, but it did get almost 1 million views. Or if I refresh the page, it probably did get 1 million views on X, which is absolutely huge. I mean, just the breakdown, well, almost 1 million, just the sheer breakdown of all of this information. Like, hey, it's not because people lost confidence and lost faith in Pierre. Like, no, there was more support than ever for Pierre. There was just a very strategic campaign, a very strategic moving of immigrants into that riding, a very strategic rezoning of his border that played against him. Whether it's legal or not, I'm assuming it is all legal. It was very strategic, and this isn't me saying it was rigged. I know there's that also floating online, but no, the Liberals won. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I don't like it. It makes me sad. But we're going to accept defeat and we're going to separate. So, let's stick it to Ottawa in that way. Now let's take a look here at a panel, Alberta Primetime, talking about Canada-U.S. tensions.
Donald Trump says, Mark Carney told him, let's make a deal. So what kind of window is being opened here?
Well, we obviously need to slow our roll in any terms of rush to engagement with Donald Trump. Look, the good news is we've had a partial reset, not unexpected. You see this often in international relations. There's a tense relationship, say China and Australia, over the past couple of years. You have a change in leadership in one of the two parties, and it offers a natural chance for a reset. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I wouldn't raise my expectations for the ending of the crisis, certainly, or anything that wild, but it certainly does give us a chance to re-engage the Americans. It also gives the Americans a chance to walk back some of their rhetoric and, well, new person in Canada, so forget what we said last month. We're talking to a new person. So it gives that natural pause and opportunity. But I wouldn't expect too much of that.
Okay, well, on that point of expectations, as we've heard for a number of weeks now, we're being told the old Canada-U.S. relationship is dead and gone. So in terms of this new government being prepared, what are you looking for in a change of approach?
Sure. There has to be two tracks here. One is management of the obvious immediate crisis, the tariffs. And you'll hear from pretty much every analyst involved. There's a group of an expert, quote unquote, expert working group with former trade negotiators, government officials that we're part of at the School of Public Policy, and we'll have a statement out essentially making some of those points. Start with the immediate crisis. The revocation or the rescinding of the tariffs, giving Canada exemptions, will of course be the #1 priority. But to Mark Carney's point about the relationship changing and not going backward, that is hugely, hugely important. To have that revelation of what we now realize is the reality stated by the leader of Canada points us in the direction of trying to think about a new path of engagement, new terms of engagement. Stop living in the era when we first signed NAFTA and stop living in an era where we have not just Donald Trump, but we have attacks on trade from the left and progressives in the U.S. What we're seeing in the U.S. is generational change. We're going to be undergoing changes with the U.S. for at least a decade, if not longer, going forward. So I think that.
Well, I agree that there is massive change that's needed, and that's why the Western Republic of Britannia, Saskatchewan. I'm working on it. I'm working out the kinks. I just came up with that on the fly, but come up, maybe somebody down in the comments. Let's leave it up to the comments. You guys decide what BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan should be renamed to as its own republic. If we're even allowed to speculate on that, it's kind of interesting because then you remove that from the Liberal government, the progressive Liberal government in Ontario and Quebec, and deal directly with America and Canada separately as its own republic. And that would be huge. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan working together. I think that it would be very, very powerful. There is a bit of a political issue in British Columbia, right? The governor of BC, David Eby, the tall, wet spaghetti noodle. There's something that needs to be done about that. We need another provincial election. If we were conservative in BC, like full-blown conservative, oh boy, that would be absolutely incredible. But in the meantime, we got to work with what we got, and they can't deny what the people want. So if the people want a separation and a change to deal solely with America as a separate republic and Canada as a separate republic, then so be it. Then so freaking be it. But it's in our Constitution. We're allowed to do it. We're allowed to talk about it. Now let's take a look here at another CTV panel that talks about Alberta Premier Smith denying separatism talk, which is the great thing for her to do.
Sandy, my sources in the Prime Minister's office say that they are working on a dual track in regards to political and policy priorities. Now, on the political front, Mark Carney has to decide who will be in his cabinet. However, on the policy side, Sandy, you'll recall that before the election was called, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, sat down with premiers and he promised them that he would remove federal trade barriers to provinces and territories by Canada Day. So that is a bill that they will have to draft. They're working on that language. The government also has to draft a budget and put it towards the House of Commons. Now, another thing that's going to happen, there is a set date in the parliamentary calendar to return. That is May 26th. But because the minority government is so strong, their numbers, as you say, are at 168, the Liberals don't feel any pressure to return any earlier.
Speaking of a date, Judy, is there anything yet that you can share with us about when the Prime Minister goes to the White House?
Well, after President Donald Trump spoke with Prime Minister Carney, he said it would happen in the next week. The Prime Minister's office has not confirmed that, but we are expecting to get a set date and more details tomorrow when Mark Carney speaks to the media for the first time after the election. Sandy.
All right, Judy, thanks so much.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to see how that goes, ladies and gentlemen, but it is pretty exciting that the House of Commons is scheduled to resume shortly. I think it's May 26th. So in a few weeks, we're going to be back in business, 21 days and right back as scheduled. So there's a little bit of leeway between now and then, and we're going to have to just see how things do work out with Pierre, with the Conservative Party, and, you know, hope for the best, plan for the worst type of thing. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it'd be super awesome for you guys to show your support by smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel, and supporting the channel sponsor on this video, which is Ground News. Peace and love. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.